I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the post-season, off-season, preseason basketball podcast. I'm Ben Detrick. With me, as usual, Jordan Redaelli is here.
Yeah, at least in body.
What about in soul?
No, I have not. That's what I've been doing. I've been
Soul searching?
No, I've actually been stripping away parts of it and selling it at the flea market in Queens.
What are you getting for like a slab of soul?
$15 a pop.
How much soul is that?
I mean, can you really measure the amount of soul one has?
That's a good question. Kuo, do you want to jump right into that?
I'm not really here. It's just a pair of hot dogs for legs.
Just hot dogs.
How much does a
and
pair
dog.
of hot dogs legs cost, really?
$2.50, right?
That for two?
Two hot
each.
dogs. What about a doggy dish filled with water reflecting the sky with two hot dog legs?
I'm on vacation, baby.
Do people still do that hot dogs or legs thing?
I mean, that's
what we thought you were
we thought
doing.
you were doing that on vacation.
Oh.
We thought you were on some wonderful beach drinking Mai Tais and frozen margaritas or a pair of hot dogs.
No. It wasn't. Had nothing to do with that. I was just really sick of basketball.
So you
And
weren't-
psyched on hot dogs.
You weren't
Yeah.
floating down an inner tube in some beautiful waterfall in a rainforest.
No, not at all.
Were you in a basement in Greenpoint with two hot dogs and a camera?
No, not at all.
Were you in Queens selling your soul?
That's exactly where I was.
I'm glad we finally got at least a soupçon
Got
of
it.
closure.
Yeah.
Well, have you seen any recent cinema, Jordan?
Of course, I've seen like tons of cinema like that. What else do you do when you're sick of basketball? I've mostly been watching TV. TV's good. Watched a lot of tennis. Did a lot of drugs and watched Wimbledon. That was super fucking fun.
What drugs go best with a grass court?
Cocaine,
What about a clay court?
marijuana,
Hardcore,
That's very counterintuitive.
ecstasy.
not speed. Well, I guess that's cocaine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ecstasy is basically speed, unless you've got a real good guy.
What about mushrooms?
I was thinking about this when I was doing cocaine and watching Wimbledon. What? Has anybody like won a match and celebrated by doing a line of white line off the grass court? They must have, right? That definitely gets suspended for like 4 years, but
I
Like
want to.
McEnroe somehow never managed to pull that off.
like just like running over to the side and just doing a giant like rip a snorter of fucking dust.
I
Chalk.
mean, Agassi, Jimmy Connors. There's a lot of good candidates for this.
In international soccer, sometimes they spray a white line for like a set play or a kick, and I always want the guy to like kneel down and do a fake line of that spray.
Seems. I mean, I guess it's just too hard now. Maradona probably did something along the sidelines.
He did
back
it
in
for
the day.
real. He did it for real.
86 Mets. They wrote a book about it. Lines
They
everywhere.
just blasted off the entire like third baseline.
Pretty much. The stories are crazy.
We don't even know what's a fair ball and what's a foul ball anymore.
Yeah, lots of superhero shit. You know, The Boys on Amazon.
I did the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked it. I just don't know why they made half a season. They made a full season of half a season.
Were they not unsure if it would be a hit, so they saved some money.
I believe that they were already guaranteed a season 2, so they kind of just split the story up, which is a bit lame.
I watched a little bit of that series on Netflix called Typewriter. It was getting a lot of attention.
Let me guess, is it about a sports journalist and all their toils in the newsroom?
It was about a Batman, but for nightlife.
Yeah.
No, weirdly, it was about several ghost-chasing children in India.
Oh,
That's basically that plot, but in India.
It's kind of the same thing, but in Goa.
Chasing the ghosts.
Instead of Williamsburg.
Clubs of yesteryear.
It's okay. I was watching the version that was in Hindi, and then the subtitles, which I think is better than the dubbed version. People were saying it's like one of the scariest shows that's ever been on Netflix. I didn't get far enough along to vouch for that, but I kind of enjoyed it. It was billed as Stranger Things, but in India.
Did it lean Hollywood or Bollywood?
Hollywood.
Interesting.
I did not see any dance numbers yet or elaborate costumes.
It's funny, as I get older and we watch so much of this stuff, and there's such a huge volume of it, like Hollywood has a distinct feel to it, and like Spielberg and all that stuff. And when it's not Hollywood, it takes a second for me to readjust. Like The Boys was very Hollywood, and something like an international thriller on Netflix, I'm like, oh, I have to readjust. Right, not everyone thinks in this through this lens,
This definitely feels Western in the use of the jump scares and like the crescendo of music to, oh, false alarm. Like there's a lot of that.
That's what we do here at
Someone
Cookies.
appearing where they're not supposed to be or flittering out of vision. Well, by the time someone looks, a lot of
That's
classic-
frustrating.
Yeah, I think the Bollywood element would probably remove some of the scares if it was like a disco ghost.
Who is the scariest disco ghost you can think of?
I defer to Jordan, the disco ghost expert.
I don't actually know what a disco ghost would be. Do they have to be dead or just like somebody who's been to Eric Duncan?
There you go.
Disco ghost. Rub and tug.
Yeah. But speaking of Hollywood, did you guys see the Tarantino movie? Everyone's talking about.
I saw most of it except for the 3 times I fucking fell asleep.
Because of the movie or because of your,
Well, it's with
were you up late?
no, it's like I watched it in the middle of the day in a reclining chair, and
Nice.
no one ever told me that your soul also contains energy. So I'd been selling a bunch of my soul, therefore ridding myself of a lot of energy. And there was another major reason that it was boring.
It's a lengthy film.
It's what, 2:45?
Yeah, and I do agree that there was something about the old school movie theater seats that would keep you awake. Their lack of comfort.
The McDonald's thing?
Yeah, the new ones, you're like, oh wait, I'm basically in a reclined position, like a first class flight, and your legs are elevated, and it's leather, and it's comfy, and your neighbors are so far away from you that you can't even graze elbows or
some nachos.
compete for armrest space.
Really hard to get freaky in a movie theater now. You kind of got to like reach like over a foot of leather to even like,
Get some popcorn?
yeah, exactly.
Now, I've
To
heard there's
tickle
a
one's
theater
fancy.
at Battery Park.
Which is disturbing because that's my favorite theater, but as discussed on Cookies years ago, I didn't know it was a hookup spot.
Kuo's been not participating. You've been, how would we phrase this?
Well, it's self-policing, right? Because the best seats are in the middle, and no one's doing funny stuff where everyone can see you. So all the funny stuff is probably in the outer chairs. It probably has a heat map, right?
I mean, look,
There's a shot chart.
probably
It's a shot chart.
There's a shot chart for that. There's a hot zone.
Gravity.
just get David Caruso out there with his fucking wand. This is like start lighting
real
up
red
and
mamba.
Chloe's like, oh shit, I was really wrong. I've been inadvertently mopping up after these deviants for years.
The Goldsberry spray chart. So you did not enjoy the movie. You thought it was boring.
The last 30 minutes were great vintage Tarantino. It just didn't really feel like a Tarantino movie. I thought the dialogue was trying very, very hard at best. It didn't seem to have that general snappiness that he has. Performances were fine. There were like a lot of really great moments, but that what it felt like to me. It felt like there was so many locations, so many scenes. It felt like 40 sort of like little scenes that he wrote loosely stitched together as a precursor to this one event at the end.
Yeah, I think most of his work has that feel, but are more successful in that way, where there's these set pieces and beautiful scenes, especially in something like Inglourious Bastards, where you remember that movie mostly via those set pieces, and some of them are magnificent. And when you're watching it, you don't know where it goes, and they become almost like small movies within a movie, where you can just watch that scene by itself, like the one in the basement of the bar in Germany, and like you could take that outside of the movie and it's its own narrative arc to it, etc. This one, once you get to the ending, which I'm not going to give any spoilers, I felt like it made a little more sense in terms of why they focused on Brad Pitt and DiCaprio so much throughout it, because it was a little right. No, I just mean it was a little disjointed while you're watching it.
Yeah,
and then it makes more sense when it comes together.
I've been thinking a lot about this Tarantino in relation to like the Democratic field a lot, because I've been arguing a lot of people about like people with candidates with really unique ideas versus like how this mechanism actually works. And like Biden actually slides in like easily. Kamala Harris slides in pretty easily. Andrew Yang doesn't, but he has the most unique ideas. And Tarantino is one of these directors with like a unique point of view. He's not the totality of what we think a perfect movie is. His movies are never perfect, but they're always his.
Pulp Fiction's a perfect movie.
True, it's amazing, but like Inglourious Basterds,
It's perfect.
But is Inglourious
It's perfect. Inglourious Basterds isn't perfect. I only like 4 of his movies, but
sure, but that's what I mean, right? Like he doesn't fulfill all the checks in every box.
I went back and watched Reservoir Dogs recently, and I hadn't seen it in so many years.
They're offering it now a lot.
And it's interesting to see it now because of all these things that have just become Tarantino-isms, slow motion walks and the dialogue, and everyone being like, hey, what about this? That's why I don't tip. And like,
but that's the right stuff, right? He's referencing the right stuff with the slow motion walk thing.
yeah,
that would make sense.
The movie, The Right Stuff. You mean?
Yes.
But I think in this one, kind of to what Jordan was saying, was like, I felt like he was talking about Hollywood and these parts of Hollywood that I just don't have interest in. And, lingering views on the like signs of a neon restaurant signage from LA of the 70s. And I'm like, I just don't care. And maybe if Scorsese did it in New York City, I might have a different reference point, but I just don't have any emotions about Los Angeles.
I have friends in LA who went and saw it at the New Beverly, which is Tarantino's movie theater, and they're like, "Oh my god, what a slog that was."
I mean, I was trying to give people some credit for it because I just don't have any emotional connection to LA that would make me care about half the shit.
Well, I can forgive that kind of. You guys are totally right. There is like this trope of like this LA movie, but I immediately think of Lost Highway, and then when people didn't really talk about that as like an LA thing, he was like, "All right, Mulholland Drive, like this is actually what I was talking about. My career is about LA," and I thought that was a really great like coupling of movies. And the Tarantino stab at it, it's just like this is Chinatown, the movie Chinatown. Like there's a tradition to this that I think he's fulfilling. That is, it's a check off of his box. He has 2 more movies. What, he promised 10, right?
Yeah, this is his 9th.
So he has 1 more movie?
It did feel like there was a bit of gratuitous self-indulgence in the Los Angeles stuff. And look, it's Tarantino. There's always gratuitous self-indulgence. But it was towards a direction that I just personally don't have that much knowledge or interest. But I liked it, though. The movie in general. I liked it. I thought it was long. But
DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are great. They're both great, interesting actors to watch. DiCaprio playing a washed actor is kind of great.
Do we have smart movie exhaustion?
It's not that smart, though.
But just casting those 2 as doubles, like the Nabokov kind of thing, like there's something to that. He's doing a move, right? That you could talk about like reflection and getting older and characters and actors, LA being a desert. Like it's already heady, and you could just drop in and be like, "Oh, smart movie." Like we have like, exhaustion of that thing, right?
Jordan, are you exhausted of smart movies, or do you want to see another brilliant film like Skyscraper come down the...
Oh my God, Skyscraper was so good. Rampage, not so much, but Skyscraper, fantastic. Very looking forward to Hobbs and Shaw, or Shaw and Hobbs. I can't remember which one it is.
Did you guys hear about the news with those contracts with Hobbs and Shaw? They had to have equal punches taken so nobody looks like they're losing the movie in their contract.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, the Fast and Furious.
Yeah, The Rock and
that British guy.
Jason Statham.
Yeah. So they had to take equal amount of punishment because one of them couldn't look like the protagonist or defeated or whatever. in the contract.
Are they adversaries? in
No,
this
no,
movie?
they're working together, but one couldn't look less tough than the other one.
Gotcha.
Or more tough than the other one, depending on.
Which is WWF stuff, right?
Is it tougher to take more punishment or less?
Less.
In this.
Less. Like Tim Duncan doesn't have last second shots because he's always winning by a lot. Kobe Bryant's always taking buzzer beaters.
But the
'cause
reason Rocky is so tough is because he absorbs so many punches.
is he tough though? Maybe he was the emotional heart of.
Rocky only ever really won twice anyway, so.
I feel like his toughness.
Record is like 2-4.
No, like Rocky. It is. Rocky like mostly got his
you
ass
and your
whipped.
with
numbers, man.
a draw. It's like 2-4-1.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, Rocky. I mean, they gave him a statue, but he's kind of a fucking loser, man. And he lost all of his money. Like, way to go, Rock.
Career record 3-5-1.
Yeah, he spent like 3 weeks in jail in Sweden. Like, what is he really winning? How many number one hits does he actually have?
Wait, I'm so confused now.
You guys hear about this Trump thing?
Well, what you just witnessed was one of the more immaculate segues
Yeah.
in Cookie's history.
Let's
Kuo,
take a break.
sire. Would you like to explain the international incident that
Oh yeah,
was
there's
apparently
nothing like ruining a perfect segue by having you explain it. Go. Kuo.
Let's pause. Let's celebrate this segue first.
Wait,
Yeah,
what are we gonna
yeah.
do a shot of? Like banana? What do you
Something
got?
on the
Something
rocks.
that's close.
Are we still celebrating the segue?
I am. I might be celebrating this shit all night.
What's the most
It
famous...
was a really good segue.
Fucking amazing segue.
To the segue. Look, everyone look in the eyes. The segue.
To the segue.
Are we mad at Donald Trump for supporting ASAP Rocky, even unsuccessfully, and then making some obvious but funny jokes on Twitter about it after he gets released on bail?
Ooh, I need to hear these jokes.
Well, it's just
My phone's been dead for like 3 days, guys.
You've been on vacation.
Well, your soul, the phone's soul has been dead for 3 days.
That's true.
Its actual container is there.
You know, it's kind of amazing how when your phone dies, the soul does leave your phone. You're just all of a sudden you're holding this object and you're furious. It's like the life is really gone from a phone.
It's still a Tamagotchi. Like when it dies, it's like meow.
Yeah, I know. You're just holding a corpse
Yeah.
of technology. Anyway, the jokes that he made were things like, "It's been a rocky week. Hope you get back ASAP." And I'm like,
Not bad. Not bad.
to the segue.
Okay, so wait, update me. So how did Rocky get released?
He went through the process of just like hearing the arguments, and then they released him for another hearing on August 12th, I believe.
Will he be returning?
Well, oh God, I forgot what his terms
Did
were.
they take his passport? And they're like, you have to hang out in Gothenburg or wherever the hell he
So
is?
he's not back.
No. So just to step back a few, he got into a fight in Sweden at a festival, and there was video footage, and he got locked up for assault. And Trump tried to get him out, being like, "Please help our dude." And the Swedish government was like, "No, we're gonna keep him here, if not longer." And
I also like. Well, my favorite part of that was when he was like, "Yeah, guys, I've spoken to the Swedish PM. Like, should be no problem." And he's like, "No, he's going to go to trial." And he's like, "Fuck that PM!" Like, just getting like sunned in public.
yeah, well,
But also poor Rocky, right? Because not only is he involved in some bullshit where they got trolled into kind of jumping these dudes, allegedly. I don't know exactly
They did
what
beat
happened.
the shit out of those
Rocky
kids.
loves to fight, man.
But those guys were also
Duh.
But those guys were also the segue.
Wait, let's pause. For
Well,
that
he
joke.
That's why he's
for
got a
that joke.
statue.
He loves to fight, but he doesn't love to win.
3-5-1.
Let's have that shot.
But here's the thing. He kind of now owes something to Trump, even though Trump didn't actually help him at all and may have actually hurt him.
So he has to make a statement now, which is going to be a conundrum for Rocky, right? He has to be like, I do or do not support Trump, because people are just going to ask him. And like, what do we want Trump to do? We're just like, he does bad stuff. And then we're like, he does good stuff. But that stuff is bad because he's a hypocrite. I'm like, don't we want him to help Rocky?
But
Who
also,
loves to fight?
Not really. I didn't really want him to help Rocky. I mean, I didn't want him to succeed at it. Because that would suggest that he's not racist, which he absolutely
yeah, that's
fucking
why
is.
it's so annoying. It's like this Reagan thing where people are like, I can't believe Reagan was racist when he was calling people in African countries literally like apes. I mean, it was, and Nixon's like, I mean, there's audio of it.
Yeah.
And people are like, I didn't know Reagan was a racist. It's like, well, of course he was. You didn't notice all of his policies?
Reaganomics was racist as it comes.
And then people are like, yeah, but he had like a black teammate that he was friendly with. And you're like, that's exactly what Trump is doing. Insanely racist policies across the board. And like, I'll help out a rapper.
Yeah, I'll help out a famous black person who's friends with my other famous black person who publicly supports me.
But don't you feel like you guys are right about Trump? But don't you feel like he just grabs at whatever's closest to him? If someone's like, you need to help Rocky, he's like, okay. It's like, you need to sign this racist bill. He's like, okay. He's just like pulling at what's in front of him.
That's true, but he's clearly aware of
what works for his base.
Of that helping Rocky is insulating.
Well, he's a celebrity hound, right? So if he can get a tweet out there that says, oh, I was just chilling with my friends Kanye and Kim recently, and we're going to go see if we can help out my boy A$AP Rocky, who I've never heard of prior to this moment, in Sweden. Like, we need to return our, like, our good boy A$AP Rocky, who clearly assaulted a bunch of people and, like, kicked him in the face and shit like that. He didn't, like, sure, he got trolled into it. They were hassling him. He was asking him to go away. Eventually, it boiled over, and they kicked the shit out of some people. Like, that's kind of weird and Trumpy in that it's like, oh, I want to support the people who have been beating up foreigners. Like at the same...
Except they are Swedish, and he loves the Scandinavians.
He does.
There's a lot of moving parts here on this
Yeah,
one.
but I bet if they actually looked Swedish, he wouldn't be so fucking excited because they did not look Swedish, and he's xenophobic as they come.
And they've actually brought up Sweden specifically as a place... And this is all bullshit, of course, and it's like white nationalism. But they brought up Sweden as a place that's suffering from the immigrants from Africa or the Middle East who are coming there. And it's not actually true, but it's a thing that white nationalists have seized upon. So perhaps to your point, that's another reason that they're all about this, because it's vilifying Swedes who are not white Swedes.
Yes.
And it's certainly a possibility that Trump isn't even thinking about any of this.
Oh, almost certainly not.
Yeah.
Wait, let's give him his shine before we move on. What were the other jokes?
That was the one that dropped today. But every single one of his tweets is like looked upon as like a moment. But I don't know. Yeah, I thought about the debates were a huge thing this week. I was trying to think about that in terms of basketball and Trump and stuff. And like these guys are given 30 seconds to state their case. And it's like, Jeremy Lin's a crybaby. I'm like, is he? Joel Embiid's a crybaby. Like, oh, they don't really have time to like frame this right. Like it's a really complicated thing. Like Kawhi Leonard changed the NBA. I'm like, ooh, that's too quick of a take. Like, and as these guys are dropping like sound bites being like the wrong flavor Kool-Aid, I'm like, oh, that's all we're going to remember.
Before we get into the...
That was pretty tight, though.
Was it?
I like that.
Can I give one last little Trump anecdote, though? Is that clip he had from his rally the other day where he starts saying Soviet Union when he means Russia.
Yeah.
And then he goes on for like a minute and a half of trying to like bullshit to walk back the fact that he just said it wrong. No comedy writer could write something that good where he's like, we're number one in whatever energy production or some shit, whatever. And it's also not true, but some bullshit that he was saying. And he's like, even ahead of the Soviet Union, formerly Soviet Union. And then just starts ranting about like, then they became Russia and they all came together. Like, there are moments with him where I'm like, I really do appreciate like how insane and goofy he is, and I just wish he had no power and he was this comical, bumbling figurehead, because he is amusing.
Yeah, and like I will certainly not be voting for him, and I'm glad like we kind of skated
That's fine,
by.
Andrew. Everyone else is going to.
But we skated by for 4 years and like nothing bad happened really.
Well, welcome to the next 4 years when he's in office.
Well, here's the thing though, because
He's like, shit, I only got 4 years left to do something really fucked up.
but what's interesting is we've seen him do horrific things, and the prevailing policies that he has are kind of like ethnic cleansing via public policy. But the Democrats don't have you're going to give this guy the button? This guy's going to be in charge of the nuclear football? Be like, yeah, well, what about like meeting with world leaders? How embarrassing is that? And we're like, yeah, well, nothing kind of happened on that regard. Sure, it's all trash, but the whole like, you can't give this guy the nukes, man, kind of didn't work.
No.
Or at least it's dead as a negotiating, like, rhetorical device now.
And like it's the nukes is an abstract idea that's kind of like as terrifying as you can imagine, but a lot of people, it's so abstract that it's hard to really imagine what that means, right? Like we've been talking about the nukes for so long. I mean, World War II was like our parents' generation.
I mean, this is the thing. You can't just push the button, man. Have you guys seen White House Down? There's a lot of red tape you got to cut through. There's codes and shit that you have to hold a gun to somebody's
The final
head.
boss is like Nicole Kidman with like a jump kick.
There's the guy who was like the male exotic dancer. He's involved in this, right? What was his name?
Coon Dog is around there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a helicopter, I think.
That's Olympus Has Fallen, Ben. Please get your identical movies that came out 2 months apart from one another about the fall of the White House in check.
I won't.
Well,
And then Will Smith flies through and shoots down the alien spacecraft.
Yeah, and then Brad Pitt is the body double for...
Smart movie. Sounds so smart.
It's smart, is what it is. That's the thing about
smart
it,
movie.
is really the gravitas and the way it makes you think.
you know what? The smart movies have been replaced with face app movies.
Deepfakes are wild, man.
That's what's happening. You look at the Martin Scorsese thing, The Irishman. They just de-aged.
I want to see that though. Is it going to look like Final Fantasy?
No, I think it's going to look better than that. But there's a Will Smith one where he meets an earlier version of himself, and he's being de-aged. Like we're all out here aging ourselves. Hollywood is de-aging themselves like they've always
Taking
wanted.
off the Superman mustache.
When will that technology get to cookies? Where we can be the Zoomers that we were destined to be.
Well, it's weird. The interns have been posting all these
fuck is a
stories.
Zoomer?
Gen Z.
But did you guys come up with that?
No, it's on Wikipedia.
Oh shit!
Boomers,
did you
boomers
come up
versus Zoomers.
Did you come up with it? You're like, oh my god, Zoomers, we're fucking geniuses, and then you realize that you weren't.
No, we didn't even get that far. We
No.
just picked it up.
Yes.
I wish we had at least
People
come
said
up with
Zoomers,
it.
so then we
I
started
remember
saying
once I
Zoomers.
came up with an app. This is like 5 years ago. I was like, there should be an app that just tells you like which toilets in New York are public, like that you can go to like a Bon Pain or whatever. And I was like, that'd be great. And be like crowdsourced. Be like, oh yeah, the toilets at the fucking Hilton or whatever. Is there even a Hilton in New York? I don't think so.
I think there's probably a few.
Is there Hilton?
I'll say yes.
Hilton's still going strong, I think.
I'm gonna just throw it out there that I don't think that there's a New York Hilton.
I don't even know.
Anyway, so the toilets at the Standard East, you can totally sneak in and they're great, and you can use them and they're clean. I was like, that's
Great. They are great toilets, the
Yeah.
Standard East.
great idea for an app, right? And someone told me that it was actually a thought or invention that George Costanza had in Seinfeld.
There was a zine in the early 90s that had all the bathrooms in Manhattan that you can go to, and it updated a few times, but it was too much work, and there was no internet at the time, so it wouldn't be relevant, but it was awesome. It was like a shot chart of where you can do number one, number two, shoot heroin, all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I thought I was a dyed-in-the-wool genius, and apparently I wasn't. I was just one of many who has...
Coffee table, that
Needed
is a
to
coffee
shit.
table book.
I mean, this goes back to like my movie pass.
I was about to say, but then you shut down MoviePass by using it to poop in Times Square.
Yeah.
I mean, they specifically were complaining about people using MoviePass to go to the bathrooms, and I was like, I only know one man.
One man brave enough. One man willing to take on the system.
They're willing to negotiate the release of those hostages.
That was kind of the plot of Skyscraper.
Yeah.
The Rock needed to poop, and he
I
had
just
to
needed to
get
get
into that building.
I needed to get to that penthouse, man, where they had the lucite toilet where you could see your shit
inside,
going
man.
out.
It's like
everything.
the other standard where you can gaze upon your whole kingdom as you...
Oh, this is the
Do your
plot of The
business.
Sixth Sense. Yes, I've seen this movie.
Smart movie.
The thing about it is that it's smart.
But the smartest thing about it is that it makes you feel stupid.
So smart.
Was there anything smart about the debates? Like I watched both nights. what am I doing with my life? But I watched both nights.
No, but that's what NBA nerds do, right? If you love politics, you just watch it and you go with the jokes and all the nuances, and like it's not for everybody, which is shitty, right? Because you think politics is about it. You think politics touches every person, but it actually doesn't. And there's this theory going around that like the Democrats and Republicans just do whatever the hell they want, and we think we're involved, but it's like a self-perpetuating ecosystem where we're not involved.
Except for Yang Gang.
Who is the best, but I've been made fun of for being a supporter of him, obviously. But he explains it all on his website.
And you guys are both reformed Knicks fans.
Yeah, we don't. Well, he cares more than I do. He's just like, oh, why didn't they do that? And I'm like, oh, that's hilarious.
He definitely understands the Nets process, though.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you just look at it, it's not that hard to figure out, right?
Well, yeah, that's true as well. But yeah, I thought the problem with the debates is now we've seen enough of these guys who are polling at 1%, and I don't need to have an equal amount of a 2.5-hour slog, the same length as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but dedicating, 20% of that to the Hickenloopers.
No, but don't you want 7 hours of this? The more, the better, right? To be able to figure this out. In the NBA, everyone's just like, too many games. I'm like, double the games. I love this shit. I'm into it, right? And like, we'll find out who the winner is, but if you're not built for it, it's going to seem too long.
Jordan, who won the debates?
You tell me. I didn't watch it. I can't vote. Fuck that.
Okay, that's fair and good.
But I do implore everyone else to vote because, it happened last year. I remember being at the Lot Radio and everyone was sitting around talking shit about fucking Hillary and all this. And I was like, who's voting? Like, some people were, I'm not voting for Hillary. Bernie's my guy. I was like, you're an idiot because everyone else is going to be voting for Trump.
But they have a point in New York. It's like they've taken that power away from us through the electoral.
Yeah, electoral college is big trash.
It's not good.
Anyway, in place of me not being able to vote, I convinced probably 10 people who were going to not vote because they didn't believe in Hillary Clinton.
And they all went out and they voted for Trump.
They all voted, and it didn't matter. And it's
In New York.
And it's not going to matter this next round either. Like,
well, New York.
Look, I'm looking at
skews away.
the guys that Democrats are dropping out. What is it called? Trotting out.
Yeah, the Hickenloopers.
Yeah, I'd probably vote for Trump too.
Oh, wow.
At least I got someone who believes in something.
Keep this guy away from that voting box.
It's too early to tell, right? Like, nobody knows anything. It's sort of like Lakers, they're going to win it all, but like, we won't know.
They are.
I interrupt this. We have breaking news coming in right now. Fabulous to perform at the sold-out NBA 2K League Finals.
Is he
Coming across the transom as we speak.
Is he going to roll up in a Stang with his Kiss the Chef apron?
And Bud Light is the official beer partner of the NBA 2K League.
Cool.
Sounds boomerish.
Oh,
Do rappers still wear bandanas?
Fabulous wears multiple kinds of headwear.
But the new guys wear the bandanas?
I think so.
Like, not like Jewels. I can't think of one that really... But it's just like they don't wear baggy the Jinkos either.
Yeah, but I think if you've got braids, you've probably got bandanas around. You
True.
know, like you just tie it back every now and then.
Are the Bloods and Crips still a thing? Like, are colors still, like, pronounced? Do people still ride for one or the other?
I mean, sure, right? I mean, we know that Nipsey Hussle...
Yeah.
and
But he didn't wear colors, or maybe he did.
I mean, he was pretty well established as a member of the Crips.
Yeah.
And so was the guy who killed him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so are we done talking about the debates?
Sure.
Yeah. Guys, I have a quick question. What's been happening in basketball for the last 6 weeks?
Thank you. Okay, about time. Let's give the quick update.
Because I've heard that there's a podcast I could have been listening to, but it's hard to sell your soul when you have headphones on and people think that you aren't serious about the haggling.
What I want to hear about, and this is not the full discussion of basketball, but recently Jeremy Lin, champion Jeremy Lin,
Did he play a single minute in the finals?
He did.
How many minutes?
A few. He had garbage time.
Okay.
He talked about that. He was like,
Champion.
I don't deserve that championship.
Whatever. That's some
Champion.
That's some
champion Jeremy Lin.
false Christian modesty right there.
But he had was it like a Christian
He was at
conference?
He was delivering an inspirational speech paid for by a Christian organization in Taiwan, I believe.
And he basically said that he felt rejected by free agency, that teams hadn't reached out to him, and that I guess he felt like he wasn't a part of basketball.
He's 30 years old, still unsigned.
And people kind of made fun of him for it. And
Clowned him.
he was roasted for being emotional about feeling rejected by the sport that he loves. Why was that, Kuo?
Because I think it's really easy to make fun of Asian men, and I think it's a full-on thing on the internet and in life, and emotional Asian men. So, like, they really cherry-picked that soundbite because it was framed behind, like, but I overcame, and you have to listen to God, and then we'll do this together. And it was kind of, he was, like, setting up a line, right? And boomerism aside, this was just an easy way to talk about, like, a layup of a joke, right? Like, look at this funny Asian guy who didn't deserve to be in the NBA in the first place. I'm like, he was pretty good. He was bad last year, but nothing about this guy's career.
I mean, he was hurt last year. Oh, you mean last season? Yeah, he was not good last season. That's
No,
true.
he was not good. But, like,
He's also coming back from a blown ACL.
yeah, that weird injury. But the 14, like the roughly 2+ weeks he had during Linsanity was not a fluke. Like, he was actually good. That's a sustainable, big enough sample size to be like, oh, this guy can play. And to deny that is like forms of like, I'm not going to claim racism here. I'm just saying it's like, it's culturally easy to make fun of someone like him.
I think there's a racial component without question.
For sure.
And I think it also goes back to him being celebrated for being of that same race.
Yes, yes.
So it's kind of the flip side of being lionized and an instant overnight hero and being like, wow, this is an important figure. He's this Asian guy. And then people now being like, well, I always knew he wasn't good. So even though it's so past anything to even argue, I've still got my agenda, which is like Lin sucks. And I'm going to like revel in it and like root around in my trough of like Lin hate 7 years after Linsanity.
And the reason it's still alive, it's because like people just look at him and be like, I don't like math either. But he's so religious, so he thinks he's like preordained and things like rely on destiny and fate. But his fans are very entrenched in like numbers and like talking about like basketball in terms of like what we think are scientific truths, which is the opposite of what Jeremy Lin stands for. And I think that kind of emotional reaction is pretty interesting, right? Like if you look at wanting it more or how you can prolong your career in the NBA just by doing something very well.
I mean, 2 years ago, he averaged 14.5 points.
He was
5
fine.
assists.
Yes.
4 total rebounds, like BPM of over 2. That's a legitimately almost excellent player. He was very good.
Yeah, and his bad moments look worse than his overall play. Like when he fumbles the ball, he looks like he doesn't belong out there, but that's because it's anti-dribble bias, right? Like we've never seen a player look like him ever. We've seen Yao Ming, but not a guard who maybe like turns the ball over a little bit.
Well, I think with Jeremy Lin, he kind of got it from all angles, right? Like obviously, optically and culturally, there's not a lot of Asian players that even in the league, let alone have success. And you often see like Asian teams just get fucking trounced at the Olympics and things like that.
And Marbury just dominating.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Asian leagues is where like washed players go to thrive.
Shout out to Lance Stevenson, the latest
The $4
NBA
million
superstar
god.
from Brooklyn to head over there, as was always his destiny. On Cookies 4 years ago, I think we said that man will be playing in China, just like Stephon Marbury and every other star from Coney Island.
So I'm surprised Trump hasn't told Lin to just go home and succeed there.
Go back to where you came from.
Go back
and
to
be
where
a
you
god.
came from. He's like San Francisco.
I mean, big facts. the paycheck he would get in China would be insane.
Right, and people talk about
If he wanted to do it.
well, I don't want to interrupt Jordan.
Oh, but what were you gonna, you go ahead while you got something better than me to say.
Well, he in his speech he was like, "I've hit rock bottom." And in America, we have a phrase. It's called rock bottom, and rock bottom gets bigger and bigger for me. Paraphrasing, and it's funny because people, if you ask anybody, like, "Are you empathetic or whatever? Do you care about what other people think?" They'd be like, "Of course I do." But then when it comes to this, we're just like, "He's rich. He's made so much money," and I'm like, "Oh, but rock bottom means different things for everybody." And to have your identity taken from you is like, that's really tough, no matter how much money he has.
But what rock was he talking about? Was it Gibraltar? Probably.
Psyched on that.
Did Jordan just take a victory lap?
Did he drop the mic by... Oh, he's back.
No, I didn't take a victory lap. I just, I don't like sitting down very much.
No, you think better when you're strolling. I've noticed that.
I definitely stroll. I'm a bit fidgety. I have mild Tourette's. So that's why I'm always moving and tapping and shaking my legs and shifting around in my seat.
And cursing?
No, that's actually like a fallacy about Tourette's. It's just that people with Tourette's are assholes in general.
That's how I feel about nerds. Like, all nerds are kind of assholes,
The
right?
same as like spiritual people.
Yeah.
Yoga instructors are fucking pricks, man. Anyway, my thing about Jeremy Lin is that it's not just that he was Asian, it's that he's like very proudly religious, which these days people clown on. He was kind of laughed out of New York by then New York legend Carmelo Anthony. And
Mellow.
And he is the recipient of maybe like 6 or 7 of the worst haircuts ever in NBA history. Up there with Aaron Bynes. But you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things that people can pick on him for because he is different and he is proudly different. And I think part of his pride in being religious, in being Asian, and in like having the self-confidence to like rock like a fucking giant mohawk and then like some other like weird thing, cornrows. Like, people don't like other people
who was
who
it
are...
that criticized him for having cornrows? It was like Rashid or Kurt Thomas. There was some grouchy...
Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon Martin, yeah. It was a grouchy former Knick. I knew that.
Who was emotional and who apologized. Like, I'm not mad at Kenyon Martin.
But you know what I mean? Like, people are threatened by others who are different and who are proudly different. And I think that's why trolls like fucking with Jeremy Lin so much. Because he's not shy about who he is.
Jeremy Lin made me know it was okay to be weird.
Andrew Yang let me know it's okay to take $1,000 a month. But Jordo, you're totally right. And I think it gives people license to express things they want to express to other people. And I think we all have these like pent up like jokes inside of us. And when Jeremy Lin comes around, like, oh, we can fire these off? Cool, because like we all agree that Asian men are easy targets.
I mean, if we go back to a legendary moment on Cookies when two-time guest Jason Williams was here, and he made a couple like Asian jokes about you standing right next to him with no malice.
No, and I didn't take it that way.
Clapped a hammy paw on your shoulder as he said things in a way that wouldn't have been out of place on like Eddie Murphy Delirious or Raw or something. It was like a very dated form of humor, but that still is an undercurrent in the way that people think.
And in that moment, I kind of wanted to jump in and diffuse it because I knew it sounded bad, but I didn't take it that way. And I was like, no, it's cool. You know, like you can get these jokes off, but like everything, has a different intent behind it. But like the Lin thing is interesting because we don't really talk about religion still. And like, I'm glad we have a pod where we can talk about religion and politics because like that's a Puritan rule, right? Like you don't discuss those two things. And we make fun of his money. We make fun of his generation, his race, but we don't talk about Christianity, which I'm like, this is more about what he's talking about to this audience than him actually being sad or like different. It's about his narrative in his mind about what he is as a person.
Right. People were roasting him for something that was, in all respects, performative.
Exactly.
And we viewed it as, wow, this guy's really heartbroken about the NBA. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not.
Yeah,
Whatever.
he seemed genuine.
I think it's genuine. But he was also making a greater point about Christianity and hitting rock bottom and lifting yourself up in the way that, say, I don't know, a Jesus Christ figure may have.
Battlefield Earth, man. It's like the Scientology thing. It's Beck, you know, like it's this narrative that we've talked about.
Shout out to Beck. That fucking song that he's got going right now. What's that like?
We've done this on Cookies before.
Oh, we have?
Yes.
Oh, well, let me just remind everyone out there that Beck's latest song is fantastic, as is the new song by a little LA group called Haim.
Haim, I like that. Rostam produced that song.
Yeah.
From
I mean,
Vampire
it's
Weekend.
just the last 30 seconds of Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed for 2.5 minutes with new singing. But god damn, if I didn't listen to that thing 10 times yesterday.
I'm a huge Haim fan. That first album was perfect. I think they're amazing. I saw them play, and they're like shredders. They're so good at it. Second album was like, I was searching for it. So I'm glad this song came out. I listened to it, and yeah, it sounds nice, man.
It's just Walk on the Wild Side, though, right?
That's fine.
No, I don't know. No, it's fine. Just, you got to listen to this when we finish, Ben.
Are you a Haim fan, Ben?
I don't know their music.
They're pretty good.
Wait, are they from like 1995 Queensbridge?
They're,
Doesn't know it.
but they're
Were
very
they
boomer.
part of the infamous mob?
They're very boomer in that they're very like they owe a lot to classic rock and like guitars and the tradition of LA, the LA rock scene.
Like Eagles of death metal or something?
Like the Eagles, more like the Eagles.
More like the
actual-
Eagles
yes.
and like Fleetwood Mac. They're a family band. They're three sisters.
Got it.
They're awesome.
Well, we had alluded to a former Knicks legend when we were talking about Lin, another former Knicks legend, and that's Carmelo Anthony. And oddly enough, their careers have reached a parallel moment, which one would not have anticipated really at any point, but here we are. Melo is another man without a team, and he's taken to the media to explain that he doesn't like that and that it's unfair to a player of his caliber.
It's funny because him and JR is in that mix as well. That whole team is just...
Steve Novak out there being like, I still got it.
Tyson still got jobs.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? The three like most visible Knicks of that team just being put out to pasture.
Jared
Welcome to the
Jeffries,
glue factory, fellas.
I forgot his name. Landry
Fields.
I want to say Landry Shamet.
Modell's legend, Landry Fields.
I know. Well, so Melo was just on Stephen A. today being like, what you heard is wrong. My framing is wrong. I want to be a team guy. I'm willing to come off the bench. I'm a good dude. And
Everyone's just like, like, this guy will say anything.
Dude, it's crazy that he's out there like that.
I bought it.
He's out there like campaigning for a job. It's like he's selling candy on the subways. Like, just give it to me. I'll take anything.
He's got a couple churros like in a brown paper bag, and he's trying to move them.
He's out there shaving ices off in the park.
But it reminds me
his
of
hustle.
the Dwight Howard thing where he's just like, oh, I'm a changed man. Now I understand the criticism. Please sign me. You know?
Yeah,
Dwight
I'm not
Howard-
gay and I don't fart that much.
Dwight Howard's done this so many times, though. The Dwight Howard, like the reformed
I
team
love him,
player
man.
guy.
He's awesome. Like
the redemption interview is like a Dwight Howard staple. That's the most I've seen of him in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I love it because like these are interesting characters who keep on reevaluating like their position in the league, and this is what we want, right? This is what we talk about, and I have so much sympathy for Melo, man. Like he is the most human NBA player in the league, out of the league right now, because not only can he not adjust to what he has become, and he just plays through the vision of what he used to be. Like now he's just like, guys, I'm on the cusp of like a life change, but it's in real time and it's really public. And that's really sad and interesting, right?
Well, it's intriguing because these guys were the best basketball players on the planet. They represented the United States in the Olympics. They were on all-star teams. They were MVP candidates. Dwight and Melo are arguably two of the top
Hall of Famers
15
instantly.
players out of the last 2 decades. They are
They define a
fantastic.
generation for
Wait,
sure.
you think Dwight Howard is top 15 out of 2 decades?
Oh my God, he was so good. He was so
he
good.
was probably the second best player in the league for like 3 or 4 years.
Went to the
After-
finals with
after
Hidu
LeBron.
Turkoglu and Jameer Nelson.
You know, it was a brief window, but he was an absolute monster on those Orlando teams. And then he hurt his back, and he was never really the
was
same.
injury, for sure.
But it's wild that the NBA is this merciless, where these guys who are legends in their field are begging to work. And what's interesting about it is that they don't need the money. They've made so much money. And this is not the boomer, like, they don't need the money. I'm like, these guys want to play basketball. They love the game.
Well, it's also two people who have gone out as a hindrance, not a help. And they need to rewrite their ending. They can't end their careers. Not that there's no room for them, but they were actually causing harm to their team's chances of winning, and that's what they're both desperate to have reassessed.
And we saw that with like Iverson, right? Iverson was sort of unceremoniously drubbed out of the league, and then he came back for a little while with the Sixers as sort of
Memphis,
a fan service thing.
Right.
In Detroit, he didn't do much. He just sort of did the same trajectory as Melo and Dwight Howard, just increasingly less relevant, and then just kind of around and doing these exact same testimonials about how he was willing to come off the bench and be a team player and be a mentor and all these kind of things. And everyone's like, you know what, though? You're Allen Iverson.
You're not good enough anymore. It's just like, if you were good, we can deal with all this stuff. But you're injured, you're old.
And there's also like something to be said about handling these declines with a little humility, which Melo never did, and so that's why he became a bit of a whipping boy in the media. In the media is because like the EOP, they want me to come off the bench, just like not being self-aware enough to understand how things were going and how they were perceived, and like complaining about not being in the top 50 when he clearly wasn't a top 50 player anymore. Dwight Howard, similar thing, like. His personality and a lot of his comments in the media, the Stan Van Gundy shit, like, these were people who became unlikable personalities at the same time as their usefulness on the court began declining. So there's a lot more sympathy for, say, someone like Greg Oden, who, also a big man through injury, who didn't live up to his potential, but he also never accomplished what Dwight did in the first place.
Though.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, quickly, Odin gets dogged. Like he's a joke. People, I think, don't feel much sympathy towards him.
But I think Jordan makes a good point there, in that these guys,
thank you, Ben,
understandably are thinking, hey, I'm the same guy that's made all these all-star teams. This is me. We're talking about me, Carmelo Anthony. I'm in my early 30s. Like, I know I'm not the same as I was when I was 22, but it's me. And they both, it's easier for them to reconcile that the reason that they're not being picked up by other teams is due to personality and being blacklisted, and that, I had to learn my lesson, and I can play a different way. And not that they're old, and not that their abilities have deteriorated to the point where, as you said, you're just not a good player. Melo, we believe you. We don't care whether you can be a team player or not. We just don't think you can defend anymore. We don't think you have the ability to get to the foul line. We don't think you're a knockdown shooter that we can just spot up and use like a Ryan Anderson. Like, we just don't think you're that guy. And he's like, no, I've changed. You're not
But
hearing
you
me.
haven't
I'm totally
changed.
different.
You keep posting Black Ops fucking like training videos of you being the exact same dude. Jab,
footwork
dribble,
is terrible.
shoot. Like,
But like, not to get too heady about this, and I think about this.
It's smart. It's smart is what it is.
It's like, I think about this with like the whole automation debate. Like, we're so scared of this thing, and we think this pretentious word, simulation, is like independent of our desires upon it. But like the NBA, it behaves exactly how we age. So Melo just being like, I still got it. I'm like, oh, that's really human. But also him being ushered out a step before maybe he thought he would be is also very human. The NBA and whatever we think technology is, behaves exactly how we feel as humans.
It's also, though, that
as a whole,
if you go out on your own terms, it's generally not at your best. Because we look at the ideal way that Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki wrapped up their careers from a public relations standpoint, and I think that's what someone like Melo looked at and was like, I want that. I want to be.
Damian Lillard said he wanted Melo to have that.
Jimmy Butler said he went to Miami in part because of how they treated Dwayne Wade. And Melo's like, you know what, I would have stayed in New York, and maybe I could have just done that, and I could have been ushered off into the horizon as, the beloved gunslinger, and I'm on my way, just like Dirk.
And they made it public that they were willing to do that if they got the two big free agents. They were willing to bring Melo back, and that's such a weird out for them, but whatever.
Yeah, sure you were.
Yeah, exactly.
But I get it. But also, like, Dwayne Wade and Dirk didn't go out as particularly good players.
And we didn't care about their victory lap.
No one did. The
Right.
other players liked it. But
Yes.
we didn't give a shit about Dirk's tour.
Who had the best? Who retired at the perfect, sweetest moment? I'm going to say it was Ray Allen.
Or Kobe. Like, Kobe went out, like, with a bang with that last game.
But it was also still kind of a joke where
Yeah.
super funny. But what did he score? 70 points, 60
No,
points?
Gordon
whatever it
Hayward
was?
wasn't, like, he was trying to foul him and smiling,
I
you
mean,
know.
no
like,
one was even playing it. It was like, it was kind of that.
I mean, like point in their career, not like the last
I
game.
mean, MJ, the first retirement,
yeah, but then he came back.
and then he came back and spoiled it.
Yeah, it's got to be Ray Allen, right?
I don't know. He was very criticized by his teammates, so I thought that was not ideal.
I just mean for like his level of play and like
You
what
mean-
what he was about, what he was going to be contributing going forward.
You mean slightly after prime?
Slightly after prime, but like self-aware enough to know that it was definitely going downhill from there. It's like just hang him up.
Well, right, because there is no great point. Because if you're still a really good player, if you're like, well, why are you quitting? You only have one opportunity to
He'd
do this in your life.
he'd also
Come back.
won a couple of chips, so he didn't really have much else to prove, and he was going out as like the greatest three-point shooter of all time.
This happens in No Simbin in football more than basketball because basketball is kind of like fun and easier. Like there's no life-threatening situation. In football, this happens all the time. The guys just retire early, especially like famously Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson.
Right. Football's a little different because of the health risks.
Yeah.
When a guy can, like Ricky Williams, like, wow, he stepped
Yep.
away from the game with his mind and his knees perhaps more intact. Than they would
Quarterbacks
have
don't do that
otherwise.
because they're protected.
All right, so here's another question for you guys: who would you like to see in the NBA retire right now?
As long as the reviled Nowitzki's out of the league, I'm good. Public enemy number one.
It's not the question, but hey,
Luka Doncic going on top rookie of the year. Like he could have been the best player of all time. We'll never know. Let's just assume he was the
All
best
right,
player.
I have an answer. Kawhi.
Oh yeah,
Like, hang it up. Okay, my summer's done. I've destroyed the rest of the league. Wait, who do you want out of here?
I don't want anyone out of here, but I'm like, who could
That's
it
what the
be?
question was.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Who do you got?
not who do you want. It's like, who do you think in the NBA right now it would be a nice point for them to actually just retire?
Who do you got?
I got Kevin Love.
What is he, like 30?
I know. He's been around a long time.
He's definitely not winning anything else. I've been following him on Instagram. He's been having a hell of a summer.
What's he up to?
He's just out there traveling the world with his girlfriend, doing yoga, like fucking heli skiing, whitewater rafting. Like he's really been going for it.
I love the dudes who are in like semi-retirement. Kevin Love, Jimmy Butler, kind of retired.
Hey, just drinking wine. It's like
yeah,
I love wine
yeah,
now,
like,
guys.
I'm going to Miami,
this
guys.
is what
Like,
I mean.
Taco Tuesday, LeBron.
well, so let's talk about LeBron a little bit because he's always kind of in the news. But David Griffin, who was for a long time viewed to be a serious ally of LeBron's, and when the former general manager of the Cavs did not come back to Cleveland, LeBron was publicly annoyed by it, and it was sort of a prelude to him leaving. Now, Griff, as he's colloquially called,
Crime dog.
the crime dog, is GM for the Pelicans, and he threw LeBron under the bus and talked about how it wasn't really fun being in Cleveland with LeBron there, and perhaps because of LeBron's power, and also kind of disparaged the current version of LeBron. And I believe his quote was something like, "LeBron's not the same animal that he was before he won a chip in Cleveland."
There was no lies there, right? All the things he said were either unprovable or true. Like LeBron's not the same, and no one wants a GM when LeBron is in his prime in Cleveland, especially with the owner that they have there. So, yeah, I mean Griffin was speaking truth to this whole process of his career, and in between then the Knicks offered him a job, but they're not in the NBA, so he turned them down.
Is this a case where Griffin should have just kept his mouth shut, though?
No, we love this. Like this is our like fuel, right? But
I don't mean for the court of public opinion and for us to just have diagnosed. I just mean
Is he not being a good soldier?
Well, why? Why would he come forward with this now? What's the timing for this about?
Well, he's trying to get into LeBron's head and the Lakers' head. And I think this is like a really casual shot that you can take in August. And there's no downside to this. Being like, yeah, make me a villain, whatever. LeBron's not the same. This is like 5 years removed.
I mean, he's shitting in the salad, as they say.
Yeah.
He's stirring the pot. He's giving Anthony Davis something to think about for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is this actually fun? Like, now when LeBron says something to him, he's gonna be like, is this how he spoke to Kyrie?
Yeah, put the seed in your head.
I took it as a little bit of gamesmanship as well, due to the fact that...
Brinksmanship.
Is it brinksmanship?
It could be.
Perhaps.
If that were on the brink.
Have a ship.
With some men.
But I did view it as, hey, we just had the Lakers come in and pilfer our superstar, I mean, for a king's ransom. But nevertheless, their relationship with the Lakers is not good. Their relationship with Clutch is not good. So, like, why not take shots at the crown?
Yeah.
If you're Griffin, like, screw you.
And
you
if you're the organization,
orchestrated this, and
right.
like, I'm the GM. I got a rep for the Pelicans now.
And he's a mercenary, so the Pelicans aren't even mad. Like, they're just like, shoot your shot, and then you're just Griffin.
Oh, I'm saying
this.
the Pelicans are happy that
Yes,
he's
exactly.
being a company man. He's like, yeah, we hate Clutch on this side. LeBron, he sucks.
Yeah, but I'm saying the Pelicans have an out because, like, Griffin is a mercenary. So they're like, oh, he said that. We didn't say that. That's his experience. He's a champion. You know, we aspire to what he achieved, so whatever. But, like, this is going to be an amazing season because LeBron has a lot going on. I think this is, like, all the cliches, like, align right now with LeBron. Like,
When does
he
Space
want it
Jam
enough?
come out?
What's that?
When does Space Jam come out? It'd be summer next year, right?
I believe so.
So it would be post NBA Finals.
They're filming now, I believe.
So realistically, the reason that they definitely needed to have Anthony Davis is so that they can win the championship and then his film comes out, correct?
Hopefully.
Well, you've been theorizing, Andrew Kuo, for several months that all of this has been orchestrated for Space Jam.
Yeah.
Of course.
The
definitely.
shutdown was to keep him in good shape so he could do the necessary tomahawks, the 360s.
It's hard to film
the
that
whirlwinds, the sledgehammers.
The whirlwinds, the windmills.
It's a different one. The whirlwind.
Which
and
is
the
the whirlwind?
windmill.
Is that the same as a 360?
Reverse windmill.
Oh.
Whirl.
Does the wind, is it,
A millwind.
are they so noisy they cause cancer, maybe?
They disrupt flocks of birds.
You become 75% less valuable immediately. You know, this whole Trump thing with windmills,
Yes.
right? But yeah, so my
Is it a quixotic? Quixotic mission?
yeah, I mean, obviously he wants to go to LA for this movie, and he's been positioning this. I was saying, like, he faked this whole LeGroin thing just so he can be in shape for filming, which was controversial, but, like, everything worked out.
Wait, were people calling it LeGroin?
Yeah, I didn't make that up.
That's so boomer.
It
That
also
was
makes
Levitard.
it sound really gross. Like Le Groin is,
Yeah, that's the point.
you know, it's like a French dude gesturing to his
Hey, look at
to his area.
Yeah.
Would you like to see my Le Groin?
Yeah, you got to eat there. It's fantastic. LeGroin has got some of the best pigeon in town. Well, yeah, my thing is, I kind of like Griffin taking shots, though. But I was wondering why he was doing it, but in talking it through, he's just taking sides. We're the Pelicans.
Well, this also, I hate to do this, but, like, this is what politics is now. This is what media is now. So, like, if you're not going to take the shot, like, Maury's been all over Twitter, like, with these jokes and kind of some hot takes, you know? Like, he's becoming more of a personality with the medium. And we're seeing less of these guys, like, behind the scenes. They're coming out from behind the curtain to talk to us about what they mean. And the whole knock on, like, nerd people, the nerds, is that, like, we're rooting for men in suits and not the players. I'm like, these men in suits have a lot at stake, and they have a lot of influence on what we see.
What's also kind of the beauty, and beauty might be the wrong word, but the wisdom of roasting LeBron is that you can keep saying he's not the same player because eventually you're going to be right.
Oh yeah, there's all upside. For
You can
that.
just keep saying LeBron is washed because he will be at some time.
That's like saying Trump is going to win because if he doesn't win, we're happy. If he wins, you're right.
Will LeBron be washed before he retires, though? Here's another one. I don't think he will.
And there's no
I
way
don't
to
think
tell.
I don't think he re-ups after this contract. I think he will.
I mean, there's no way to tell, and that's a possibility. But he was at the AAU game with his kid, and apparently he said to a young teenager, like, "I hope I'm in the league when you're in the NBA."
There was a real paradox, if you will, in the response to that because half the people were like, this is uncalled for. LeBron acting a fool out there, making it about him and being in the layup line with these kids, and that's befouling the good sport of AAU basketball. And then you have the exact same people saying AAU basketball has ruined the sport here in America. It's a travesty. It's not scholastic. They're not coached. That's why European kids are better. And you're like, these don't make sense together. He can't be making a mockery of something that you think is tarnishing the beautiful game of basketball.
And another emotional response was like, he's being a good dad. Like, he's just a part of his kid's life. And it's hard for me to speak out of place here, but like, he's redefining the idea of a black father. Like, people are psyched on that too.
Well, it's also that LeBron didn't have that kind of mentorship or father figure in his life from his biological dad. So seeing him do that, I'm like, that looks like really fun for everyone involved, man.
Yeah. Also, even if you're not LeBron James' son, if you're just in the building and you're a kid and you're like, when I was 15, LeBron James joined our layup line and like threw down a couple of dunks right in front of me. I passed him the ball that he dunked. Like, come on.
And this is the Jeremy Lin thing. Everyone thinks what they would do if they were in LeBron's case. Like, I wouldn't interfere with my son's glory. Like, let him have the moment. I'm like, oh, he's special. He's LeBron James. Like, if I was Jeremy Lin, I'd be happy. I'm like, but you're not,
That's the thing is like, well, if I went out there and got in my son's layup lane, like, you're not LeBron James, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. LeBron is special. He's one of the most special humans on earth.
Yeah, Bronny's not there being ashamed or embarrassed of his old man in that fucking scenario. Dad, stop windmill dunking.
And even if he was, that'd be fun too, right?
Yeah.
No, Kurt's out there doing a lefty layup again.
I wish I could get out from under my dad's shadow. Like, your name is Bronny. Like, this is the best.
Dude, what'd be amazing if it's like he drives to the hoop and like goes around the back and then just lays it off the glass like a normal show-off dad.
The thing is, I was at a press event, I don't know, almost a decade ago, and we got to play on the same court as LeBron for like, I don't know, probably 2 minutes.
Yeah, we had Will Welsh there talking about it, right?
Okay, yeah, so he was there.
From GQ.
Yeah, and well, they did a separate thing with LeBron. This was like a press event in Akron, and we were out there for a few minutes playing in the same game of 5-on-5, and there was like no interaction with him, but he's on the court with us, and it's one of the coolest things basketball-wise I could say I experienced, and it wasn't anything meaningful to LeBron. It wasn't showing up stuff, but if you're one of those kids, you're like, how sick was that, man?
Yeah.
Most of those guys aren't going to the pros. Some might, but for the most part, they're going to say, hey, what was really cool? Maybe one of the coolest moments of my life. LeBron James watched me play and complimented me for, a good defensive steal. And then he got in the layup line. And, that was the coolest thing that I've ever seen in my life.
And this is just what's happening now, and we have to, accept it, is just, when people talk about these events now, they're just like, this is what I would do. Because it's just, just a leveling of opinions, right? So if you were like, yo, I played with LeBron, that would be amazing. That was amazing. Someone else who you don't know might be like, I'd act like I've been there before. Oh, cool. But it was very awesome,
So LeBron James and the aforementioned Kawhi Leonard are squaring off on Christmas Day. Those games were just announced.
Oh.
And
Spicy.
That's a spicy one. Clippers-Lakers at Staples. You've got the Rockets against the Warriors.
Wait, whose home game is it, though?
I think Lakers.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, because Lakers, like the Knicks, always have a home game, right?
Are the Knicks playing this year?
I don't think they are.
Then they're not in the NBA. There's a trick question, and you
I could
failed.
be wrong, but I've seen the listing here, and you've got, Woj said you've got Clippers, Lakers, New Orleans, Denver, Boston, Toronto, and Philly, Milwaukee.
Oh, so this is an NBA schedule, not a relegated
Wait,
league
so when
schedule.
is
There's 5 games. Are there normally more than 5?
No,
I
there's
think
five.
it's 5.
So this is going to be the first time in about 20 years that the Knicks haven't had a Christmas Day game.
I thought that, but I went back and looked, and I felt like they didn't have one like 6 years ago. I could be wrong, but they almost always do, and I would say should.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Everyone loves that team, even though they're in relegation. Like, people care. It doesn't have to be the best teams. It just has to be the teams we care about.
Why would you not want the Knicks to be there? Is it just the perception of bias towards a big market? Because I think everyone's cool with the NFL, where Dallas and Detroit always play on Thanksgiving, and that's just part of the deal.
Which is annoying, and people complain
It's
about
also
that.
weird, like on Thanksgiving last
No sin bin.
year, I believe it was Cowboys versus the Redskins, which I thought was really fucked up.
The
Little
NFL
slice of Americana
Like,
there.
it's
on Thanksgiving.
On Thanksgiving, I was like, really?
It's fraught. That league is tough, man. It's really tough.
Like, isn't that the one game that you want to avoid as long as possible on Thanksgiving? Is the Cowboys?
The Cowboys are really
versus
blanketing the
Redskins?
Indians out there.
But that's the exact one you do want because it causes the most uproar, right? Like if you're planning that and woke, you're just like, let's do it. They're in the league.
Get in the sin bin.
Oh, it is hot as shit in here, man.
It sure is.
The takes.
Yeah, I think it's the fiery takes are raising the temperature.
Well,
here
you know,
in this.
you have like one more body in the room for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it's really been temperature controlled for only 2 people.
What do you guys do on Christmas Day? I oddly have no family around, so I usually spend it at home. But it feels weird to spend the entire day watching basketball. Do you do that? How do you convince your significant other, if you have one, to do that if they're not hoops heads?
Well, you're kind of trapped in a house for the most part from dawn until dusk because nothing's really open. So the TV just sort of goes on. And
But what about when you have to take like a family walk after dinner?
And you want to watch Steph Curry versus Harden,
we did take a good family walk.
Shamit versus AD, the classic matchup.
I mean, I think the NBA has done a great job sort of putting a headlock around, in particular, Christmas Day, MLK Day.
Yeah.
And they're NBA days now from a sort of fans' perspective in a way that it always was, but they've really owned those two.
Well, also from like a network television point of view, because everyone else is just playing shitty Christmas movies, and they're playing shit that people have seen before.
You can always watch, I forget if it's Godfather. I think it's Godfather. Someone always plays Godfather, and it has so many commercial breaks that it's like a 6-hour movie if you
Is
really want to get
Godfather
into
a
that.
Christmas movie?
There's one network that always seems to play Godfather.
Yeah, let's call it a Christmas movie. There's a Christmas scene in
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm thinking.
Let's do it.
Christmas movie.
Die Hard, totally a Christmas movie.
Yeah, that was a big debate, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously a Christmas movie.
Yeah, done.
Like, they play the Run DMC Christmas song in it.
The
Like
Godfather.
Christmas in Hollis.
Yeah, Godfather, Die Hard, Christmas movies. Ben Simmons is a power forward. Done. We figured it all out, man.
Those are all the obvious things. Magic Johnson is a power forward.
Right.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a 3.
Gravity at the 3-point line isn't important.
Shout out to CJ McCollum. And
What did he do? Oh, he got paid, huh?
got some money for $100 million for
Secured the
3
bag,
years.
as the Zoomers say.
What I'm really concerned about is having a I like the Zoomers thing. That was a good line.
Shut up.
Segue!
I smiled.
Do you want a more audible
Yeah.
appreciation?
Well, I'll see you guys in another month.
When are you back on vacation? When are you back on vacay?
This is my vacation. I take vacation twice a year at this point, so
I mean, I feel like you came back in good spirits and really up on the news.
yeah, because I was rested, well rested.
This is your.
You know, I
space, man.
hadn't burned out from doing any Instagram stories whatsoever. So
You're missed on those.
am I though?
You are.
I've done 2, and it's always been when I'm like not meant to be doing them. So we should just.
We got to get those deep fakes ready.
Should just keep it like that.
Yeah, we've got one that's going to actually take those and they sober you up with technology.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do I say anything other than make noises?
No, you're mostly just pretending to blow off air horns in like a toilet stall or something.
Yeah. I was actually at a very nice penthouse apartment, Ben, at like 9 in the morning. Thank you very much. I was not there for breakfast.
I apologize for my.
I'll invite you next time. It was actually like on your block.
Excellent. Well, lads, it's been an excellent episode of Cookies.
We're not going to talk about CJ McCollum.
He's
so boring. He's so boring. He's so.
I wanted to do a fake take where I'd pretend to be concerned about him becoming a top 60 player and then comparing it to Ben Simmons when everyone got like all bitchy
Too
about
boring.
him.
Oh, I fell asleep.
It was too
weird.
boring. It was too boring. It's
The
like
only good thing about CJ McCollum is that he looks like Gregory Hines, and that's never
White
a bad
Knights.
thing. From White Knights, from Running Scared.
and Peebo Bryson.
Yes, he basically looks like any R&B singer from the mid to late 80s.
He's a good-looking guy.
Well-fed, resting fat face.
He's got that dribble bias thing going on. He's just like he looks the part.
I'm so bored.
So bored. I fell
we
asleep.
tried.
I fell asleep
So bored.
saying it.
That was a great effort on the CJ McCollum front.
Tried to give him some cosmic daps, and it's just not fucking working.
No,
No cosmic daps for you, CJ. Just a lot of money.
0 cosmic daps.
Just woke up. What are you guys talking about? Last thing I heard was CJ McCollum.
And then everything just sort of went blank at like these new movie theaters.
It's like my
The
soul left
elevated
my
feed.
body.
Shout out to who? CJ McCollum? Cookies.
Cookie.
Cookies.